In 1962, a Soviet submarine was surrounded by American warships. Depth charges were exploding around it. The crew thought World War III had already started. On board was a nuclear torpedo, powerful enough to wipe out an entire fleet. The captain wanted to fire, and one officer said no. If he had agreed, there's a real chance you and I wouldn't exist right now. That's how close the Cold War came to ending civilization. And the craziest part? The United States and the Soviet Union were never officially at war. So how do you go from allies in World War II to 45 years of nuclear standoff? Let's break it down. At the end of World War II, the US and the Soviet Union are on the same side. But let's be honest, this wasn't a friendship. They worked together to defeat Nazi Germany because they had a common enemy. Once Hitler was gone, the cracks showed immediately. The United States believed in capitalism and democracy. The Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, believed in communism and one-party rule. Each side believed their system was the future of humanity, and each side believed the other system was a threat. When the war ended, Europe was destroyed, and both powers had troops all over it. That tension, that distrust, is where the Cold War really begins. Then, August 1945 happens. The United States drops atomic bombs on Japan. Overnight, the Americans have the most powerful weapon in human history. Stalin doesn't celebrate the end of the war. He sees a power imbalance. If the US has nuclear weapons and the Soviet Union doesn't, that's dangerous. So the Soviets race to build their own. By 1949, they test their first atomic bomb. Now both sides can destroy each other. And here's the key turning point. When both sides have nuclear weapons, direct war becomes suicidal. So instead of fighting each other directly, they compete everywhere else. After World War II, Europe gets divided. Western Europe aligns with the United States. Eastern Europe falls under Soviet influence, countries like Poland, Hungary, and East Germany. Winston Churchill calls it the Iron Curtain, and it wasn't just a phrase, it was a real political and military divide. In 1947, the US announces the Truman Doctrine. America will stop the spread of communism wherever it appears. This strategy is called containment. The goal isn't to destroy the Soviet Union, it's to stop communism from spreading any further. But containing an ideology across the globe, that's not simple, and it definitely doesn't stay peaceful. The Cold War stays cold between the superpowers, but it turns very real in other countries. In 1950, war breaks out in Korea. The North is backed by the Soviets and China. The South is backed by the United States. Millions die. Then, Vietnam, another brutal conflict shaped by Cold War tensions. In the 1980s, Afghanistan becomes a battlefield between Soviet forces and US-backed fighters. The two superpowers avoid fighting each other directly, but they fight through other nations. It's like a global chess match, except the pieces are real countries, and the cost is real lives. Meanwhile, both sides keep building nuclear weapons, thousands of them, enough to destroy the planet many times over. This becomes known as mutually assured destruction. If one side launches, the other launches back. Nobody wins. Strangely, that threat keeps the peace. Then comes the moment that nearly ends it all. 1962. The Soviet Union secretly places nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. When the US discovers this, everything escalates. American ships form a naval blockade. For 13 days, the world holds its breath. One wrong move could trigger nuclear war. And during this crisis, that Soviet submarine I mentioned at the start nearly launched its nuclear torpedo. One officer refusing to authorize it may have saved humanity. That's how close we came. The rivalry doesn't just stay on Earth, it goes to space. The Soviets launch Sputnik, the first satellite. The United States responds. Eventually, Americans land on the moon. The space race isn't just about science, it's about proving which system is superior, communism or capitalism. By the 1980s, though, the Soviet Union is struggling. Its economy is weak, the war in Afghanistan drains resources, people demand reform. Mikhail Gorbachev tries to fix the system with new policies, but instead of stabilizing the Soviet Union, the cracks widen. In 1989, the Berlin Wall falls. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. And just like that, the Cold War ends. No final battle, no massive peace treaty ceremony, just one superpower dissolving under pressure. The Cold War lasted nearly half a century. It shaped modern Europe, modern Russia, modern America, and the world we live in today. It was a war defined by fear, tension, and the constant shadow of nuclear annihilation. And somehow, we made it through. If you enjoy History Explained, hit subscribe because there are a lot more stories like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.